Greetings, everybody. Welcome to another episode of One Degree of Scandalous with Cato Kalin.
That's me. Hi.
And Tom Zenner. Thanks so much for joining us. Cato, great to see you.
Great. Always great to see you, my friend. Hey, you didn't wear the white coat. Thank God.
You know, I did wear it like we talked about because we did our road show. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But first of all, I want to thank everybody who's watching and listening to us. Off the top, make sure you subscribe and download One Degree of Scandalous with Cato Kalin and Tom Zenner. Wherever you get your podcast, tell your friends about it. Find us on YouTube, too. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you get all our short clips. You get all the great highlights from throughout the week, some crazy stuff that Cato does. And then you get to see all this, and you get to see our studio here in Hollywood. We're not showing you the shots outside. We keep the door locked. We want to keep everybody safe. But inside here, it is awesome. So, hey, big week last week, Cato. Saw you on Hollywood Raw. You and I did Adam Carolla. Great time promoting the show last week.
You were on David Pat David.
Patrick Pat David.
I always get that wrong, don't I?
Patrick Pat David show. I was
which is huge.
In Miami and Fort Lauderdale for that. So we were really lucky. We had 3 big shows that we promoted on. How about you? How about you in the story with Kris Jenner getting picked up by 2 Fab? A lot of people reached out to me about that.
Entertainment Tonight, I was like, wow, this is a huge story. And if you go to those sites, you'll see exactly what we're talking about with my bumping into Kris Kardashian. Of the Kardashians. I grew up in Brentwood, of course, with Kim, Khloe, and Kourtney.
It's crazy. We'll talk more about that on our show. And go find Adam Carolla's show that we were on last week. We were on Friday. So just a few days ago, the 29th of July. So go find that because Cato had some amazing stories of back in the day with OJ. And thank you to Adam Carolla and his crew because that was a blast. So good being on that show. All right. I hope everybody's ready today, because we have 2 phenomenal guests. We're going to be talking about the music business, man, some of the biggest stars, biggest names in music, background stories of them, athletes, Shaq, 50 Cent. Wait till you hear some of these stories that we have coming up.
The old Chrysalis. One of my favorite labels, actually, was the Chrysalis. I'm going to talk to, mention his name, Tom Sturgis.
Yeah, so Tom Sturgis is our guest. He's joining us later.
Preston Sturgis, his father.
Amazing story. The very first Oscar winner for original screenplay was Tom Sturgis' father, Preston Sturgis. So Tom's going to be joining us in a little bit. But Cato, why don't you introduce our first guest, because I'm really excited about this one as well.
Well, you know what? I'm so happy to have gotten this first guest because he's so busy. And I'm telling you, I promoted this gentleman forever. I watch him and I say, this guy is a superstar. He's super talented. He does spot-on imitations. He's the only person ever to be on both Mad TV and Saturday Night Live, and one of the he did this. Hopefully, he do, or maybe he can't do. He's not in full gear. That I used to pee in my pants laughing at Drunk Girl,
on SNL,
and the history of it. And I'm glad to actually be called his friend. And more importantly, with the comedy, I remember that I wanted to become a pro ball player, baseball, and his name is Jeff Richards. And Jeff said, "Oh, I play a little baseball." And I thought, this guy's an actor. This guy's a comedian. This guy can't even throw a ball. This guy was throwing 90 miles an hour. To me, he was seriously amazing. So, and we became friends through all this and hung out. And still to this day, I'm happy to say that we are friends. And I love this guy. And I want to bring him up here right now. And I think he's traveling. He's in Portland now. Happy to have Jeff Richards. Jeff, hope you can hear. It's myself, Cato Kalin, Tom Zenner, who I made Tom an immediate fan of yours. I said, just go to his Instagram and you'll just pee in your pants laughing. Oh, Jeff's not here.
Yeah, he is. Jeff, welcome to the show, buddy.
He's doing a comedy pause. I love it already.
Just trying to find my space. Guys, this is a wonderful opportunity and also just a nice time to be here with you. I heard you guys talk earlier and before I came out, and I could hear, you just guys are in a good mood. You're in a warm mood. I washed my hair last night with not enough shampoo, just enough, but not enough.
What, you think the amount of shampoo makes a difference? I thought it's the conditioner, it's the gel, it's the whatever else goes in after. You think it's the amount of shampoo? How much is the right amount? A dab?
Well, if I could say this,
a handful?
Listen, I'm staying with my aunt, and I don't want to use all her shampoo up. So I just did a little, like a nickel size.
Jeff, could you take this into Lorne Michaels on a pitch? What if you pitch at Saturday Night Live on Monday? Hey, I want to go 15 minutes on shampoo. Do you think he'd buy it?
Well, listen, I always say my therapist sounds like Lorne Michaels. So it's like, yeah, you might be psychotic.
That impersonation of Lorne Michaels would never get old to me. Does he really talk like that? I mean, do you think he thinks it's a shtick at this point and he carries it on, or is that how he communicates?
I don't know, but he gets in that saddle and he keeps going. And he's, it's like between dress and air, he'd be like, I think I'm seeing a shadow on Chris's face. Can we just pull it? Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
You know,
Did someone fuck with my I'm still light? Oh, I thought we were not supposed to swear. Oh, sorry.
that's how we can believe. It doesn't matter. Hey, Jeff, getting into Lorne Michaels, like I said, I think you're a very creative and funny guy. And when you went from Mad TV, you went from there first to SNL, correct?
From Mad TV to yes. From
Okay.
Mad TV to SNL, right?
It's a two-part question. First part, I'll ask it. You can answer it. First part is when you come from Mad TV. I imagine SNL, which had been around years before it. Do they first of all look down on you like, oh, this guy's from Mad TV, who cares? Or does the cast embrace you? And secondly, did you ever go into a writer's meeting or go into an actual show and say, you know, I'm going to try it my way? Or do they just look down on that? Like, don't you do exactly how it's written? Two-part question.
I think especially when you're new, you got to do it how they do it. You know, how it's supposed to be done. You can't start making stuff up. But if you're Will Ferrell and you're into your 7th year, yeah, go ahead and say what you want. Say something on your own if you want.
Right. You got to build your credibility.
As far as being like accepted, I feel like it's the same. And Katie, you know, this is an athlete. The other athletes don't really become friends with you until, you know, you hit a home run or, you know, or you strike out a few people. You know, they show them that. So that, I think that's how that was. It's like, you know, I did Drunk Girl, like my 8th show in, and then a couple of them were like, good job, you know.
That was your home run then? That would be your...
That was my first hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was your first
And
hit.
you know what? The environment there, everybody's worried about themselves, right? It's every man and woman for themselves every single week. You fight for airtime. You fight to get your skit picked up. You fight for the attention. So there's probably not a lot of time for people to be giving accolades to everybody else because they want to get their stuff on. I mean, it's very competitive,
Really?
isn't it?
Yeah, but you know, it's the real angle on it is just be a good guy or girl or whatever you are, and be complimentary, be happy, be nice to be around, and then they'll all put you in sketches.
Right. So, okay, go ahead, Jeff.
No, it's as cutthroat as you want to make it. It doesn't have to be cutthroat, you know.
Okay, so now I can't remember the entertainment magazine I read, and you can say if it's true or not. If you can't comment it, I understand it. But the question is, you're doing with Fallon and Tina Fey. You're doing the Drunk Girl for the first time, and then you get a second time. Obviously, they like it. Is there jealousy from the two when they're seeing? Oh, this is really kind of funny. He's getting bigger laughs, and because I know there's jealousy, and that Fallon might have held that against you a little bit. That he want to be the funny person. That he's going, this Drunk Girl's getting way too many laughs. I want to tone it down. Am I right in this, or with the jealousy that could go on?
I don't know what people are thinking, but we got to do it a few times. I think I did it like maybe 10 times. So, you know, Fallon's great though. I like Jimmy. He's always in a good mood. He's like a, you know, exuberant 9-year-old, you know. That's the coolest thing in the world, you know what I mean?
I know he does a
It's
great.
amazing. No, this show is amazing, you know. It's a third wheel podcast studio, you know. It's incredible, you know. When I first heard about it, I was like, oh my God, no way, you know.
Okay, so 2000, that was the Mad TV year, and then 2001, you go to SNL. I mean, that's amazing. First guy ever to do Mad TV cast and then Saturday Night Live, phenomenal. And then that cast you worked with at Saturday Night Live. I mean, this is Jimmy Fallon, Will Ferrell, Anna Gasteyer, Dale Hammond, Chris Kattan, Tracy Morgan, and then Tina Fey, Rachel Dratch, Maya Rudolph. I mean, that had to be really exciting walking into that. But that was also 9/11. How did 9/11 affect that season of comedy on Saturday Night Live?
Well, I felt that it just put a big cloud over it. It just made like a big wet pancake over your face, you know, because everyone obviously got very serious and from what happened. So it just, you know, it made it harder to do comedy.
Yeah.
You know, people aren't as lighthearted, you know.
Plus, Cato, do you remember about that time too, after 9/11? It was like people were looking for permission to laugh again. And can we be light? And I think a lot of pressure fell on Saturday Night Live to deliver the goods. You know, people could tune in on a Saturday night. This was before social media. This is before streamers, before everything else. So really, people looked to Saturday Night Live to kind of give the green light that let's lighten up, let's laugh, let's try to move on. Did you guys feel that?
Yeah, I did. I you know, after the first show was over, I think people kind of calmed down a little bit and got into it. But I remember one of the producers saying, now's the time to be really silly, after 9/11, be silly, have big characters, don't do anything too divisive, just keep it like Laurel and Hardy kind of thing.
We're going to get to some of your impressions because you're one of the best that does it. But let me ask you this question. I mean, here's who you have in your stable: Louis Anderson, David Letterman, Bill O'Reilly, Robert Downey Jr., Gary Shandling, one of my favorite comics of all time. What is the rule in the world of comedy and master impressionists? Do you have to get permission to do this when you're all running in the same circles? Do you find like you have to do that, or do you just roll with it and see what they say?
No, I think you do whatever ones you can do, ultimately it's your take on that person. And if you want to watch someone else do it and they break the code a little bit and you have like a move on there, I don't know. I think people borrow all the time, but I was always trying to do ones that, no one was really doing, like if I could,
What is the secret, Jeff, from going from one celebrity to the next, almost like you got a running dialogue in the middle of the same conversation where you're switching from one celebrity to the next? Is it just so much practice and rehearsal that's on autopilot?
That's not the way I do it. I do more like make a couple jokes about the person as myself and then go into it for a while.
The thing about Jeff is that he did an imitation that I think they loved, where I think you did a lot of David Letterman, and David Letterman was on fire at the time. And when I first saw this, Jeff, it's the only person I ever saw do David Letterman, and I said, spot on, David Letterman, in the full gear.
Well, that's very nice of you to say that, and for some reason, and I don't know what, I want to say thank you. I've never seen the show before. I don't know what's going on. I think it's a comedy show, but it might not be a comedy show. It might be
I wish you'd throw
it might be something else. Go ahead.
Throw a pencil at me.
I love, you had the little Indiana. You can hear the little twang, the little accent there of David Letterman. Now let's segue. Let's play The Feud with Louis Anderson. What do you say? Is he available?
Play The Feud. Top 5 match in the bar is 700,000 million people. Show me.
Oh, you really do,
And so,
you ever take the bottom of like a Coke can and you just start chipping away at your nail? You just keep chipping away at your nail.
Sounds fun, Louis.
But then starts to hang down. You ever do that? You ever hang it down? Because you want to put it back, but it's already cut.
So this is sort of 1 degree of scandalous. This is the 1 degree of Jeff and Cato. I was on the road with Louis Anderson. In the 90s, I was going to be opening in Vegas, and Louis took me on the road with him, and we went all over Midwest, and I did comedy clubs. It was like, so I sat with some of his writers. We did this. It went great, and then everything kind of fell through because of the trial. It's a separate scandalous story, and so Louis, it's weird, and Jeff, I was friends with Louis Anderson. I was dear friends with Norm Macdonald. I was dear friends with, I knew Bob Saget, and all these guys passed away. I did the first show, highest rated ever show of Politically Incorrect, where I was the guest with Gary Shandling, who didn't want to meet me, Jeff. He did not want to meet me because he already had it set in his mind of how he was going to make fun of me.
Oh, right.
And it was incredible, and all these people had passed away.
Hey, Jeff, do you have a Cato Kalin impersonation? I mean, you've known him for years. Can you do anything off the cuff really quick? This could be interesting.
Maybe introduce our show.
Maybe introduce our show, Jeff. Not really, I can't. I'll do Dustin Hoffman. All right, there was a long hallway, and she trying to open the door, and she went open the door, and he said, "You put your apples on top of the bananas. You never put your apples on top of your bananas. You put your bananas on top of your apples. If you put the apples on the bananas bruise. You can't bruise the bananas."
I love it. I know it's go. The last thing I want to ask Jeff is, by the way, thanks for being on. Would you do us a favor as Robert Downey Jr. introducing 1 degree of scandalous with Cato Kalin, Tom Zenner, Cato Kalin? In your brain.
So here we are, and here we go. This is an amazing, incredible experience. Tom Zenner and Cato Kalin on the Third Wheel Podcast Studio LA, which I find morally reprehensible and weird and chaotic, and it's great.
Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man. Thank you. Thank you.
Jeff, thanks so much, man. Best of luck with everything.
Thanks, Jeff.
We'll stay in touch. Thank you.
And follow the Jeff Richards on Instagram. And anything else you want to say?
Anything else to promote?
Jeff Richards' show is a podcast on YouTube, and you can just go to my Instagram. It's the best way to do it, I think.
Love you, man. Thanks a lot. You're
Okay,
you're brilliant.
guys. Bye.
Bye-bye, Jeff.
All right, Jeff Richards, Kato, a very talented impressionist. But did you see when I asked him to do a Kato Kalin impersonation? He goes to Dustin Hoffman. Who does the best Kato?
The best one, actually, I think is, well, there's three that I really stand out in the 90s was David Spade from SNL. We just had Jeff from SNL. Dana Carvey from SNL did a great one. The best one ever I've seen was Martin Short, when I heard it in the background, and I was like, oh, my God. Then I saw him doing it. I was like, oh, he's got me down pat. And also Harry Shearer from The Simpsons and Oakhurst, and he did the Kato imitations. And I'm hoping our next guest can try to do a Kato imitation because, I think I bumped into him once, and he tried to do the Kato, but it was he's got like
we'll find out.
Years to work on it.
All right, we're going to bring our next guest. Now, we're going to segue and talk about the history and some scandals in the music industry. We're going to have a lot of fun for the next 17 minutes. 17 minutes of classic guest time here from Tom Sturgis, a legend in the music industry. Worked with Chrysalis, was the head guy there. Universal Music has signed some of the biggest names in all of music, and he's joining us right now to talk about the glory days in LA and the music scene and everything else that's going on. Tom Sturgis, thanks so much for joining us. It really is a pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, Tom.
Kato, what's up? Tom, good to see you.
And Tom, it's been a while, but don't you and Kato go way back? Weren't there a few intersections, maybe, in Holmby Hills at the Playboy Mansion over the years?
Well, Kato's a legend, not only in his own mind, but at the mansion. And we ended up running into each other. One of the things about him that has always been the coolest is if you just approach him blind, he's open to it. You know what I mean? You go, Kato, and he'll turn and go, what? Yes. As opposed to, hey, I'm eating, or, leave me alone, or no, I didn't. Whatever it is.
That's true. Actually, it's a story. I was at a celebrity golf event at Ryan Stiles one time from Whose Line Is It Anyway? And Richard Kind was there, the actor, George Clooney's best friend, and from many films. And there was people coming up to take photos and all that. And I said, can you wait till I'm eating? Anyways, and he goes, Kato, I'm going to steal that line. That's the funniest thing I ever heard. But Tom, we had great times. I remember at the mansion in the heyday, the best times. And then the parties went from great to kind of when Hef did when his covers changed from Girls to the Pac-10 to Girls to the AARP. That's when we knew maybe the parties aren't going to be quite as good. It's like Girls, wait, what's going on?
I was going to mention, since we're talking about scandals, there was a scandal that took place, kind of a music business scandal.
Yeah.
I had found a song that I believed to be a huge hit. And this was part of the job in those days, is you would find a song and then send it out to the world and hopefully hear back from the producer that this was the song they'd been looking for, and tremendous. So I played this song basically for anybody who could sing, so including Tina Turner and Pat Benatar and every legend, and everybody turned me down. And then a very dear friend of mine, Clive Davis, rang up and he said, the most interesting thing has happened. George Michael and I just got off the phone. He wants to do a duet with one of my artists. And Clive says, I'm expecting him to say Whitney, but he says, no, he wants to do a duet with Aretha Franklin. He says, the issue is that obviously it can't be a romantic song in the I Love You sense. It has to be a deeper and more, pure love affair. So I had this beautiful song called I Knew You Were Waiting for Me that all these people had passed on. I send it to Clive. He calls back the next day. He goes, oh, my God, it's exactly what I'm looking for. You got to have him rewrite the bridge, which I had them do. The song goes on to be a worldwide #1 single. It's Aretha Franklin's first #1 pop single, and I think her 12th or 13th Grammy Award. So all those guys who went, maybe it's a hit, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
What a great feeling.
Shamed by
It's
the incredible. And the song is still, if you go
I
here,
love that
Knew You Were
song.
Waiting for Me.
I think of
It's
you
just
every time I
incredible.
hear it on the radio too. I always send Tom a screen grab from Sirius when I see that song. I love the video. I love that song. Is that sort of like in the movies you have to have the right casting and you got to put the right people together, or something could live on a shelf forever? Is there a chance that song does not get made if somehow paths didn't cross and the universe collides, where you get George Michael and Aretha Franklin together for your song?
Well, it's such a miracle, but it comes down to the fact that Clive Davis has incredible ears, can hear a hit song, and he was remarkable, and he knew what he wanted. I wrote about him in one of my books about the fact that he is at his most creative when he's listening.
Yeah.
Not when he's talking, but when he's listening. And
Yeah.
you watch him, he closes his eyes, he nods his head. And so he did that with that song. And, we had a historical run with it, and still I think one of the top 50 songs of all time.
Well, maybe you can help me out then, Tom, because I think I wrote a hit, and I was going to have it written for Taylor Swift. The song just called "Maybe I'm the Fucking Problem." So I don't know if you could actually work with that, and I'm sorry, Tom, I had to swear, but that is the song. Or maybe some kind of country star, and I just write a song called "If You Really Loved Me, You Would Have Married Someone Else." Maybe you can help me, Tom, with these songs.
It's not too late.
It's not too late in my career, and I think these might be hits.
Those are beautiful titles, and I'm sure there's a rapper out there who's looking for some controversy, but I think they would turn it around and say, maybe you're the fucking problem.
I like that you said that. Now, speaking of that, you said rappers, and your music is from rock like Slaughter to George Michael, Aretha Franklin. Do you look at the hip hop scene, the rapper scene? Is that where you kind of go, no, I close my eyes to, or do you like it? And by the way, be honest with me, because we had a guest that I didn't know. I'm not a rap. I didn't know a lot of the hip hop. I don't. I'm very much alternative, from sort of like a Radiohead to the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. I like that music. So I never really have. Not that I don't like it, but I've never really listened to hip hop. Are you that way, or do you try to find, okay, that's in the zeitgeist now, I got to do this?
Well, first of all, I love the question, and a lot of guys don't really understand the creative power that rap is. No, it's not music in the traditional sense that those of us who play piano or guitar, violin go, now this is music.
Yeah.
But their creativity, the rapper's creativity, is basically just their voice and the way they present the melody, if you will, of the way they present their lyric. And it reminds me of a kind of a scandal when I was running Chrysalis. We had the first #1 rap single, which was by Blondie, and it was called Rapture.
Mm-hmm. Right, of course.
And produced by Mike Chapman and written by Chris Stein and Debbie Harry, except for the rap part, which was written by Fab Five Freddy. So when it came time to do the royalties, we didn't know what to do, because what's rap? It's neither a lyric nor is it a melody. It's something completely different. So for years, we were still trying to figure this out. And I remember Vanilla Ice used a track of a song that we own called Under Pressure. We owned all the David Bowie copyrights. And suddenly I'm turning on the radio and there's my copyright in a hip hop song, and there's no credit to David Bowie. And so, of course, we had to shut everybody down and get that worked out. So from the very, very first, and later on in my career, I signed Shaquille O'Neal to his first writer deal. What's Up, Doc? Can We Rock? And
Biological didn't bother. Let's not forget that.
Biological didn't bother, right? He was a really tremendous writer, and also brought a lot of great writers in with him. When I left Chrysalis, I ran his label for a couple of years. And years after that, I signed 50 Cent.
Yep. But here, let me stop you right here, because this one needs the proper setup. And this story, Kato, is going to blow you away. And Tom, your background is unbelievable. President of Chrysalis Music, EVP of Universal. You ran it for Shaquille O'Neal. But the story of a phone call and a cell phone handed to you from a barbecue in Texas changed the course of hip hop. Take us back to that day, where you were, and how this happened.
Well, I'm not given to hyperbole like some of the guests on this show, but you have a lot of the facts right. So you got to understand, the business I was in the songwriters business. So the lyrics and the melodies was my concern, not the master. Those are the record companies. That's their own pantheon. That's Clive and Ahmet Ertegun and Jimmy Iovine and Mark Williams and all the rest of these brilliant guys. Mine, I had to sign the writer. So my secretary, a guy named Corey Bergen, gets a phone call from his brother who's at a frat party in Texas. And is called his brother, who's now in the music business, to say, oh my God, this place is exploding. The roof is getting blown off this building. You got to hear this. So he's listening, and he runs into my office. He says, dude, you got to hear this record. And so I'm barely making out. Find me in the club. which had come out on a white label from a sister label. We knew nothing about it. And they were just testing it out at this frat party. And it was fantastic on a speaker this big, and it was fantastic on, at that barbecue. And we were on the phone. A great A&R guy I worked with and hired named Manny Edwards jumped in, and we got the manager on the phone. 4 hours later, we had a date. The deal closed by the end of the next day.
Unbelievable.
Well, what was that? What was the song?
It was 50 Cent. Into Club.
Into Club.
He signed 50 Cent. Curtis
his
Jackson.
first single.
He was a nobody.
He was going by Curtis Jackson, not 50 Cent.
Well, I
then.
mean, he probably was 50
He
Cent,
wasn't
but
going by anybody.
nobody
He
knew
didn't
who he
have a
was.
name. It was just a record called a white label. You didn't know who it was. You didn't know anything. You just put it on. You said to the DJ, just play this and let's see what happens.
So is it easier to get a deal with an unknown? Obviously, because they're going, yeah, I'll sign anything.
No, by that time he had signed to Dre and Eminem. It was silent in our world. We didn't know. Dre made that record.
Yeah, Tom, that's an amazing story. And you think of some of these other big names like Smashing Pumpkins, Three Doors Down, Foo Fighters, Stone Temple Pilots. You're getting them to sign contracts in that career of yours. But going back to hip hop or rap, any other scandalous stories of maybe rappers you've worked with?
There was a record I got, and the writer was a guy named Joseph Foreman, who nobody's ever heard of. But he had signed a deal with Republic, and the guy who ran Republic gave me a ring. He said, "We're putting this record out. I have no idea, but I'm just tipping you off in case you want to be part of it." So I go and I listen to the first single, and I'm like, I have to have this. This is the coolest fucking song. Call the attorney. The attorney, of course, wants $1 million because who doesn't want $1 million? And I went into my bosses and I said, "There's no way we don't publish that. We have to own this song." So the song comes out. This is before 9/11, by the way, when the world was still willing to laugh at itself and use music as the tool. And there were calls, those radio shows where they do the top 10 at 10.
Yeah.
This song was every song. It was the only song people were calling in. And when it was the top 5 at 5, it was all 5 songs. So his rap name was Afroman. And his song was called Because I Got High. And it is sort of become the #1 college party song, replacing 99 bottles of beer on the wall.
Right.
So
Next level.
if you want to cue it up, you can hear
Yeah.
it. So cut ahead. We're 6 months into this record. The song's been licensed to a mortgage company in Sweden because I got high rates. I mean, it's everywhere. There's answer videos. So I call them up and I said, "So listen, I need the original masters because we want to put this song out, license it for film and television, and they really need the instrumental version." He goes, "Well, problem." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "The computer that I recorded that album on, I sold at a garage sale." And I said, "Dude, you just sold put a million selling album, the masters, up for sale at a garage sale?" I said, "What were you thinking?" He said, "Dude, I was high."
What did you expect when you got into business with this guy?
So that actually that song never came out.
No, the song came out. Everybody knows the song.
Came out. It was huge.
Yeah, it was
Only because I
huge.
got high.
Everybody's got that in your head.
Just tell me,
I got high.
but tell me the guy made millions, please.
Oh, he made a ton.
Oh, good.
He made a ton. We took good care of him.
Yeah.
He told me once, he said every time he performs, that song is standing behind him, tapping on his shoulder.
Oh, that's great.
When's it my turn?
Hey,
When's it my turn?
Being in the music business, the question I have is, obviously you went to many concerts. Now, when a band is into the third album, let's say the first album is always the most creative, always the most, that everything kind of comes from that first one. I think they're raw and they want to make it big, so you really put your energy into it. Now, when you get into your third or fourth, and then you're maybe touring, do you ever think that the PR company wants to have a scandal to make sales go up? Have you ever been privy to any of that info where someone said there's a fight between this band member and, I always thought that would happen where bands want some kind of publicity. I mean, let's face it, Aerosmith going on tour now for the last 30 years or so. There's got to be something with bands to get sales.
So really and truly, 80% of a band's income, once they've established themselves, 80% of it comes from touring and ticket sales.
And merchandise too, or no?
Yeah, that's part of it.
Okay.
Tickets and merch. That's where they make 80% of their money. They'll make 15% of their money from their music publishing, the part I was in, and they will get 5% from the record company. Because being signed to a record company is like staying at a hotel. You need $1 million to make your album? We'll put it on your bill. You go ahead. You want, and that's how Marvin Gaye went broke. He wanted orchestras and violins and bands playing, and they said sure. But he could never pay off his debt because the production costs were so expensive. So to me, I can't. It's such a fine line to get people to come and see you. I worked for years and years with the guys in Bon Jovi, probably the most professional and extraordinary group of guys. And they wanted that fan experience to be so impossibly ridiculous. And they would look after the fans and special seating for special fans and really, really took care of everybody. If you look on YouTube, there's a thing called Tom Sturgis and Bon Jovi. And these guys were kind enough. I said, what is it like to hear your words being sung back to you by 60,000 people? And they're like, oh man, that's nothing like it. I said, is there any chance I can stand on stage with you and record that? And so they were like, yeah, because it wasn't a Bon Jovi concert, it was a radio show. They let me stand, Richie Sambor was kind enough to let me kind of be 10 feet away from him. And I put and so when they turn to the audience and the band stops playing and you hear It's My Life with 60,000 people singing in this haunting, ghost-like, filling the room with their sound. It's completely unbelievable.
There's no rush like that. And, that also explains why these rock stars and performers stay in great shape, because they have to. If 85% of their income is performing, they have to be in shape to go on tour and to keep delivering the goods into their 50s, 60s, and sometimes into their 70s. All right, I got a scandal for you. 1992, Sinead O'Connor. This was a big music scandal. I think you guys remember this. She's on Saturday Night Live. She's the musical guest. And after her performance, she takes a picture of Pope John Paul II and rips it in half. Chaos everywhere. I did not know why that bald lady was so upset, but then you find out later she was very upset with the Catholic Church and some of the things that were going on behind the scenes, and she made this political statement. Tom, were you attached to her? Was your label attached to her in any way? Did that have any blowback that you guys had to deal with?
Well, and I'm going to add something really quick before Tom answers. And also, this is a great question for you, Tom, because you're one of the only people to be baptized at Notre Dame, and that's very big part of it too, I think, with the ripping. But go back to answering that.
Are you guys reading my Wikipedia page? Is that what's going? Yes, I am. I'm the 7th American to be baptized at Notre Dame Cathedral, which I guess shows what a big deal my dad was. So when I came in as president of Chrysalis, an amazing fellow named Nigel Grange, who owned a company called Ensign Records, and he had signed the Waterboys, and I mean, he's golden ears this guy had, and really believed. And he finds this kid in Ireland, Sinead O'Connor, and he signs her to a deal. She's got this, her voice is like Linda Ronstadt plus an Irish accent, like clear as a bell and beautiful and resonating. And she puts out the first record, and I'm the publisher. So the first record comes out. We're selling 600,000 copies. This is a tiny scandal, by the way, compared to what you're talking about. But I make up a songbook, which costs a lot of money. You got to have somebody sitting there and transcribing and everything else. I send it to her for her approval. And I get a note back, and she says, I'm sorry, I'm not going to let you publish that book. And I was like, oh, can you, is there a reason? And she said, my lyrics are too personal for me to have them printed on a page. And to me, that was a harbinger of difficulties to come, because that meant we don't know how to play the game here, because the game is feed the people, give them what they want. They're in love with you. They're in love with your words, right? Yeah. So by the time she's calling her own shots, Prince had given her that beautiful song, Nothing Compares to You. Prince, one of the most remarkable guys I've ever known or worked with. And she started telling people what she was going to do instead of listening to people who, like Nigel, who said, do this, and made her career. As soon as she got there, she was like, okay, I got this. I don't need you people anymore. And there's a thing, it's a little deep for your show, but there is an inevitability of success that a lot of artists feel because they've been going to bed every night since they were 9, believing that they were going to be superstars. And whether it was me signing and pitching their song or Clive Davis or Ahmet Ertegun, and not that I'm comparing myself to those guys, but just they don't care who did it. As long as somebody believes, finally, there we are. That's what's supposed to happen. And they believe in their own wisdom more than the wisdom of the people around them. And so when she made that decision without telling anybody, okay, so you're upset with the Catholic Church. There's lots to be upset about. I was raised Catholic, I know. But decided, I don't care about my career. I don't care how mad I get. I don't care about anything because all that matters is what I think. And blows up her career. She's never had a career since.
That's right.
Right? Because she divided the world. That's the thing. Like if somebody ever comes to you, and Cato told me this once, this is a brilliant thing. If you pick one side over another, you're going to piss off everybody on the other side. If somebody says, who's better, the Rolling Stones or the Beatles? And you go, the Stones. Then every Beatles fan thinks you're an asshole. But if you say, you know what, they're both great. I couldn't possibly choose.
Yeah.
Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Do you think somebody like her just didn't give a damn about making money? Because you got to know how to play the game. Clearly she didn't. She didn't have anybody with any intelligence in her ear, apparently, or she thought she was smarter than them. But do you think ultimately she really didn't care?
I think she only listened to herself at that stage. Because that's clearly I don't care what happens. By the way, she was raised broke, had no money. I know we sent her a check in the $400,000 category, which I'm sure if you have had nothing and suddenly you have $400,000, you think you're the richest person in the world. You have no idea how fast that can go away.
Yeah.
That's right.
And obviously music has this, there's highs and there's lows, there's really dark side. So you repped people like the Stone Temple Pilots, who Scott Weiland passed away, Chris Cornell passed away. You mentioned Prince, he passed away. Have you ever met an artist and you knew
who didn't pass away?
Yeah, and you prefer them alive or
gone.
dead? No, have you ever met these people while alive and said, this person's going to be in trouble one day, this person's going to have major problems one day? That you can kind of foreshadow and see and go, boy, there's a real dark side to this performer?
Well, just the quickest little Prince story, which because it illustrates the kind of guy he is. And obviously, he is our Mozart. I don't care how you look at it. Died young, greatest composer of his generation, greatest musician, one of the greatest musicians of his generation. So we were at Universal. David Renzer had brought in that catalog, and a group of us went up to his house on Doheny. This is where he had the floor replaced with his symbol.
Was it the purple house? Didn't he paint it purple too? Or was that a different
one? I didn't let it. There was a restriction. No, but he did tear up the living room and put his symbol in, which, and we were going up to talk about film and TV, and I don't know if you remember Blackberries, but they used to make a little clicking noise every time you pushed the keyboard. So I was taking notes, and I didn't realize that everybody in the room was staring at me because Prince was staring at me. And I'm like, clickety, clickety.
Busted.
What? And he looks at me, he goes, so I said, I'll take notes by hand. So I'm taking notes by hand for, next, whatever it is, 45 minutes. And I figured, okay, that thing's been forgotten. And then he says, and while we're there, like band members are arriving and setting up in the next room. By the way, I have witnesses for this story. And then the band starts, you hear them start warming up and everything else. And he says, okay, karaoke time. And he brings us all into the next room. Like if he wasn't playing music every couple of hours, it was like food for him. If he didn't have it, he didn't have sustenance. So he goes, karaoke time. Come on, everybody. And he drags us all in there. And then he points to me. He says, you get up here. And so I am performing with Prince and his orchestra in their living room. I said, do I get a choice of the song? He goes, nope. And they break into All Night Long. She shook me all night long, right? And the band is rocking, and he's got the lyrics in front of me. He goes, sing, fucking sing, right? So I go up there and I'm trying to, when you're trying to get the note right, you hold your ear down so you can hear what's inside your
pros
head.
do.
It's so loud. So we finished the song. I'm sure it was absolutely dreadful because I didn't get famous because I'm a singer. At any rate, so they're in front of all these people. He says, "What's with the finger in the ear?" I said, "Oh, I just wanted to make sure I was on the right note." He goes, "That's for singers."
That's
Right.
great. Real quick. I'm sorry.
You're on some master list back in Paisley Park, buried in
Yeah.
the vaults. You singing all night long. I want to get my hands on that.
I have
my God.
I have a Prince story, real quick Prince story, and I know because Tom has to go, but my Prince story was I lived next door. Sierra Way is where he lived. Sierra Way was Carlos Boozer's house. Carlos Boozer, then it became Prince's house. I was the next door neighbor. Prince had his people come over next door, knock on the door, bring a bottle of wine, and said, I'm going to be having a party. So it was an invite not to go to his party.
And not to call the police.
Not to go to his party.
Just not to call the police.
Not to call the police. It was a bottle. I still have the bottle of wine from Prince. And not only that, it was my friends all knew he was throwing a party. They came by to see if they could sneak the wall, and they couldn't do it.
Oh,
That's a true
wow.
story. That was a Prince story on Sierra Way.
That's a classic story, and so, we'll hammer this on a future episode. I want more Prince stories because I got some good ones too.
And I got that bottle of
Do you?
wine.
Oh, man.
I'll bring that bottle of wine. But you know what, Tom? I've been noticing that not a bottle of wine, but he's got.
Well, here, yeah. Let me ask you the elephant in the room there, Tom. I mean, you do have something shiny golden next to you there. Is that your little buddy that you take with you everywhere you go? Little Oscar?
By the way, this guy is famous for several sources. Here, I'll put him right there. I want you to look. I'm going to be talking about you. Okay, there we go. Can you see him? Is he in that picture
that's
there?
right.
Yeah,
That's an actual Academy Award, ladies and gentlemen.
So this is the 66th Oscar ever given. This is the first Oscar ever given for Best Original Screenplay. And that was in 1939 when they divided that category into original and adapted.
Wow, you look great.
Thank you.
Hey.
And my dad won this. And the scandal of that is being a guy who tried to be funny. When he put it in, he told the MC, "I'm just going to have a laugh because there's no chance I'm going to win this. If I do win, say accepting for Preston Sturgis is Norville Ratsky Watsky." And sure enough, he wins the award. The guy pulls out the thing. He goes, "Oh, accepting for Preston Sturgis is Norville Ratsky Watsky." And my dad walks up there like the greatest moment of his life as somebody else and walks back to his seat like feeling like an idiot.
Well, it's memorable,
Holy
right?
cow.
If nothing else.
For the Great McGinty, correct?
Yeah, that's
That was the
amazing.
great McGinty. That was the great McGinty.
Yeah.
Hey, I have one other quick Prince story. Again,
Okay.
not scandalous. So we published the Winans as part of Universal, and I was the head of creative. So I was a stop on a lot of people coming to Los Angeles. I remember Chick Corea once came into my office and played Spain, and so it was a normal thing. So I'm there with one of the Winans guys, and we're just talking, and he goes, "God, my favorite artist in the world is Prince," and I'm like, "Get out of here." He goes, "Yeah, I did this, I love this, blah blah blah." I said, "Well, I think he's in the building," and he goes, "What?" I said, "I think he's down the hall. He's visiting the chairman of our company." He goes, "Prince is in the building." So I get on the phone. I say, "David, would you tell Prince that Mr. Winans is in my office and would love to say hi?" And 5 seconds later, my door slides open. There's a shadow at the door, not a tall one, but a shadow at the door. The door slides open, and in walks Prince. And these two guys, for 10 minutes, were adoring each other. Prince says, "I used your song for a theme and variations, and I put the hook in this song, and I did that." And the guy's going back and going, "And I did this, and I did that." And then Prince says, "All right, I got to go. I'm in a meeting." Boom. And that guy was gobsmacked is the
amazing.
perfect word for it.
Yeah, you don't hear those types of stories about Prince. You being his next door neighbor is fascinating, but you hear the weird stuff. But there's a human side to him too that
He
people
was
love.
beautiful.
Mhm.
He was he was a little, a little wrapped up in himself,
Yeah.
but
he had to be that sort of genius because he was a creative.
I
force.
saw him at the Rio when he had his show was at the Rio Hotel up in Vegas, and he didn't come out. Show started at 8. He didn't come on stage till 1 a.m. and we just sat.
That
there
was his-
going-
that was
and
his
then
gig,
and
man.
then he played till 6 a.m.
Yep, he wouldn't
That
show
was
up till
it.
super late.
I was there.
it was
there.
It was one of the things, and I noticed this when I worked with Shaq. If you really wanted Shaq to do something and you said, hey, you really got to do this, that guaranteed that he wouldn't do it. The moment you said you have to do, no. But if you said, oh, you cannot do that, please do not, then he's like, okay, well, that's what I'm doing.
Isn't that funny?
So there was this weird thing. You can't tell. Can't tell some of these guys what to do. You just can't.
And in that business, you got to figure that out. And if you got to, it's almost like being a marionette. You got to know which strings to push or buttons to push or strings to pull to get these guys to do what they need to. Let me ask you this question in all seriousness, because you spent your career helping some of the biggest names in music win Grammys, a very prestigious award. You've got an Oscar sitting right next to you that your father won, an Academy Award for screenwriting. Which one has more cachet, do you think? Which one, the Grammy or the Oscar, if you had to pick one?
Well, there's the four, right? There's Grammy, Oscar, Tony, Emmy, right? That's the, they actually give you a name if you've won all those. I think John Legend is the one who is the most recent EGOT. From my perspective, the toughest one of these to win is a Grammy. That's the toughest, because you've got to convince 16,000 people or thereabouts that you deserve to be in the upper reaches and the highest echelons of this field. I think that's the toughest one to win. So from a prestige, a reward of your creativity, I would put the Grammy first, and I would say the Oscar is second.
Well, interesting. Then you just pissed off the Beatles and the Stones by picking one there. Going back to your theory there, you just picked out the
Screwed up my own rule.
Here you go. Your rule is no longer valid, buddy. You're out, Tom. And you know what, though? The great thing is, Tom Sturgis said 17 minutes. We went way over because he enjoyed our show so much. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, Tom, you were great. Hey, Tom,
so here's what I think, and I mentioned this to Tom yesterday. I think you guys should just have your own talk show, and whatever it is, scandal if you possibly can. But how about just there's a scandal a day around here? So whatever it is, and just make sure you're sharing your points of view and make it in. One of my golf buddies is John Ireland. So Mason in Ireland is the longest running show. Technically, it's a sports show, but they'll talk about anything.
No. And that's
if
the
it's
key.
interesting.
I've done their show. Say hi from Cato Kalin. I'll be your caddy. I'll be your caddy.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, let me ask you one last question before you go. When you were managing Shaq and you left,
I was not managing. Never. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
When you worked with Shaq, the non-basketball player, the performer, how serious did he take it? Did he put the work ethic into it to be good? And B, was he ever taken seriously by the industry, by other people? Did he have the potential to be really good at that?
So I only worked with him while he was a basketball player. So I was helping with his concurrent career, which is helping him find co-writers and helping him clear the rights, because he loved a great sample. He loved, and he would hear that music, and like a lot of the rappers I worked with, you play him a beat. If it's not jumping in the first 10 seconds, they're like, next. And he loved a lot of the beats that he got. So did he take it seriously? Totally, completely. We even did a tour. I don't know if you remember the year of the strike, the basketball strike. I came up with this idea called Shaq's Rap and Jam. And we took a group of basketball players and artists, and we went all over the Pacific Rim. Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, Taiwan, Vietnam, and Australia. And that's how serious he was. By the way, I'll tell you, here's how serious he is. We were flying in a private plane while we were over there, and his gag was to go stand in the back of the plane. So instead of flying like this, it was flying like this.
Oh, man.
You're probably not joking. That probably did disperse the weight a
little
little
bit.
bit.
That did happen. And you would hear the captain come on and say, Shaquille, please return to your seat over the wing. Because it was,
wow. That's funny.
So that's him as the boy who, you gotta, let him be who he is.
Instead of taking him on a tour of the Far East, you could have had him work on his free throws a little bit too. I mean, that wouldn't have been too bad.
I am not agreeing with that. I am not agreeing. I tell you, one time we were talking during the strike, and I said like one sentence about basketball. We're a bunch of his guys and me. We're having lunch, and I said something about basketball. I said, "Listen, you're the king. You really got to be the one who leads this whole thing." And he stands up, like way over me. He's a big person. And all the other guys, they're not interrupting their lunch. They're like, Tom, watch out, buddy. Tom, they're eating. And he stands up and he says, don't ever, ever. And then he picks me up. Talk to me about basketball. And puts me down.
Oh, I thought he was
We worked another year
Fully
after
proven.
that, but that's how mad he got. He picked me up to make sure I understood the
No
point he
hoops.
was trying.
It would have been better if he would have dunked you. Anyways, that's just me.
I
But
bet that crossed his mind.
So, Tom, great seeing you. Thank you so much for your time today. If you're playing golf, have fun. But again, really appreciate this this walk back into history, Playboy Mansion, and the music industry here in LA. It's been fascinating. Thanks.
Thanks, fellas. I appreciate you having me on.
see you on the links.
You got it, baby.
All right. See you. Take care, Tom. All right, Cato. So that
fantastic,
keeps our streak intact. Every guest we've had has run into you at the Playboy Mansion.
Oh,
So
boy,
congratulations.
yeah.
That is great. All right. Hey, great stuff today. Two good guests. Thanks so much. Reminder, make sure you download and subscribe if you haven't. And check us out on YouTube because these things visually just come to life in a totally different way. Plus, you can see Tom Sturgis's Oscar that he had on here.
100% check us out on YouTube. And Tom, if I may say something about Ice Wars.
Yes. Give me a plug.
I would love everybody to check out the Ice Wars. Ice is War is on Instagram. I'm going to Canada. It is hockey fights on ice. There's nothing like you will be blown away. It is the most incredible new sport, and we have 14 fights coming up. And you saw the trailer, so look for that. It's on FightTV.com. It's a pay-per-view event, and it's already sold out. So please,
Amazing.
Are they on skates when they're doing that?
Yeah, they're on skates.
Are they wearing pads?
hockey enforcers? They're wearing the whole thing.
and please, Tom, go to my Instagram. I got pictures of it. What it is, you'll be blown away.
Yep.
It's actually on ice, and it's just the fights on skates.
Check it out. It's
Is there a
awesome.
ring?
It's my home run.
Yeah, it's his.
Oh,
It's Cato's.
beautiful.
I'll tell you
Beautiful.
about it, and I'll make sure you have the link. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Follow us each week on social media. We'll keep you updated with some behind-the-scene clips, and we'll catch you new episodes every Wednesday, 1 Degree of Scandalous with Cato Kalin and Tom Zenner. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.